Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week, we're going to be talking about all kind of the fallout of the Disney Investors Day. There's loads of bits and pieces of news. There's also some news that came out from Netflix quarterly results. We're going to be talking about all the Star Wars news that came out of Star Wars Celebration, including the Mandalorian and the Clone Wars, and also our thoughts on the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer. We've also got some other Disney Plus bits of news and rumors. A series based on Love, Simon, She-Hulk rumors, and lots more. But before we go into any of that, just a quick bit of housekeeping. If you haven't already done so, make sure you do hit that subscribe button on YouTube or subscribe button on audio platforms such as Apple. And a big welcome to all of our new viewers and listeners. We have got lots of new subscribers this week, so big welcome to you. So, James, first most important question of the show. What have you been watching this week?
I've been getting ready for Endgame, so everything in the Marvel Universe between Iron Man 3 and Captain America Civil War. So I'm not going to list all of them because it's actually quite a few movies, but every single one of the Marvel movies between those. Yeah, and that's about it, honestly.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've that kind of weird thing of I know everyone's been doing that Marvel sort of train thing of going forward. I tend to find that if I do something like that, I end up getting burnt out before I see it. Like when I go see Endgame on Thursday, it'll be like I haven't watched some Marvel movies since Captain Marvel, so therefore it's just like it's like I can remember what's happened. It's a bit of an odd one. Yesterday we had a really lazy Good Friday, so I didn't step out the house at all. Didn't even go into the garden. So we ended up doing a bit of a movie marathon. We rented Mary Poppins Returns, which was okay. We were both a bit like, okay, a couple of songs are a bit catchy, but yeah, it still didn't quite hit the point. I kept waiting for it to get kind of going into that next stage, and it never really did for me. So I was a little bit just like meh on it, which looking at the way that the box office result was, and the reaction afterwards, because Mary Poppins Returns kind of did have a very flat sort of the once it was out that first weekend, it kind of all talk about that movie just seemed to drop off.
But it also came out in a time when there were a lot of different Oscar movies kind of floating around as well. So it was never going to attract that much. I haven't seen it. I'm not planning on seeing it until it's either on Netflix or Disney Plus.
It'll be on
probably.
Netflix. Yeah, it'll be on Netflix.
That's probably Netflix.
Yeah, it'll be on there probably by about June to July, August. And it probably won't hit their Netflix Disney Plus till end of next year because that's the last movie in the Netflix contract. Now, I did want to bring something up. I'm going to be doing a video a little bit more detail on this on Monday. There's a kind of an issue going on with Netflix that they put out during their quarterly one results that they still own the rights to pay to window on all of the movies between 2016 and 2018. So there's about 30 plus movies, things like Zootopia, Star Wars Episode 8, Infinity War. And what that means is they're about 9 years after they come out of the cinema, they then get the movies back. And Netflix still owns that right. They haven't sold it to Disney. And I was a bit like, oh, that's going to make things very complicated because the earliest it would happen would be the finest hours in 2025 will leave Disney Plus to go back to Netflix, and then and Mary Poppins Returns wouldn't go back onto Netflix again until 2027. Now I can't help but think 5 years is a long time to hold on to that contract. That something's not going to be done before then. Especially after we had with the Star Wars contract, we all thought that wasn't going to happen. They sorted that out. Netflix might be holding on to that card for like a get out of jail free thing, or maybe some future money. Maybe they don't want to lose. It's thinking, well, we'll hold on to that for a few. We can always sell it to them the year before, or just hold it back a bit.
Yeah, and it's in both of their best interest to kind of negotiate something. Netflix has stated repeatedly that they really want to focus on original content. While it would be a nice little poke in the eye or whatever to get some Disney stuff once Disney Plus has already started getting traction several years down the road, I think they're probably more likely just going to arrange a deal.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's a long way off as well. It's, we're talking 2025 for the earliest. Disney ain't going to want to lose those movies. They're going to want to pay for it. They don't want to have this. But I can imagine Netflix going, well, just hold on to it for now, because they might want the money then. They might not want to be like, hand everything to Netflix or to Disney Plus now, going, yeah, it's fine. 5 years is a long time in business. And as that, yeah, we were thinking the same thing for Star Wars. So we know that things can be done, and it's still 5 years away. But Mary Poppins hasn't even hit Netflix the first time and gone back, let alone come back again. But it's an interesting thing to kind of go in, and that's the big issue really going forward with a lot of contracts that need to expire, and it will take a long time for all of this stuff to get sorted out and a lot of money. But nevertheless, let's jump into some of the other news from this past week. I'm going to hold off on the Star Wars stuff for a little bit. So we had the Investors Day last week, and it has taken me nearly over a week just to kind of go through and pull out all the important information and kind of get out there. I put up loads of articles on the website, what'sondisneyplus.com, going through what's on there, what's not going to be on there. A couple of interesting points I did pick up. Once Upon a Time was spotted in the initial trailer. So that's the only ABC show that was shown. And while it makes a lot of sense, it does bring up the question of, is this a one-off, or is that an ABC thing only?
yeah, and I don't know. I don't have any real insight into that one.
No.
We need more info before we can really go into it.
And this is the thing. This week has been just tons and tons of questions of, is this show coming? Is this movie coming? Is this show coming? Is this movie coming? And at the minute, all we know is the information they put out last week. Now, I suspect over the next coming 6 months, we're going to have a trickle of stuff being announced. Once the official website is up and running, once we start getting a little bit, they're probably not going to know too much about the back catalogue until they start putting out that information, and it could be months away. They're going to hit us with trailers for things like The Mandalorian, Noel, and Timmy Failure. All these different trailers are going to start breaking over the next 6 months as they get us warmed up, and they're going to try and have different, like, what they call PR beats, where like each one's trying to build up to the launch. They had a big PR beat. They've had a lot of news this last 2 weeks. They're probably very grateful. I mean, it's been a very positive week generally, other than a couple of things here and there. But they're going to want to spread that news out. So there's 5,000 episodes of Disney Channel content coming. Generally, I would say if it's been on the Disney Channel, we've got a very good chance. But there's been some shows that people have been throwing questions about, because we've set up a Facebook group and people have been kind of jumping in and asking. And I'm checking like Disney Life. Disney Life has become if it's not on Disney Life, then it may be. But that's kind of become my like go-to thing of, is this cartoon on there? Well, if it is, then it's like, well, there's a higher. I'm using it as a general scope at the minute of just working out. Well, if it's on here, there's probably a very good chance.
I mean, that makes sense, because it means they've already converted it for streaming. They've got it in their system, and however they're going to chunk up the video files, because you don't send a video file in streaming, you send little tiny pieces of it. But these files are already set up for that, so it's a no-brainer for them to pop over. Plus, there's no rights issues because they've already been dealt with. There might be regional rights issues still, but
yeah.
I
mean, we've had lots of questions as well about it. When's it coming here? When's it coming there? What time's it coming out? And the simple answer is November 12th is US date. Every other region is unknown. It's literally as simple as that. They are planning on making it global. Canada was confirmed by there was I think it was a CBS reporter. They get confirmation from Walt Disney that it is coming to Canada, because it was a bit ambiguous. We've had lots of other issues, like in India, for example. It's been reported that rather than launching Disney Plus in India, they're just going to incorporate it into HotStar. And I'm thinking they've got 300 million users. But that kind of makes a lot of sense to kind of put everything into one boat.
Yeah, it's HotStar's already out there. There's no reason for them to do something new, especially when they have subscriber sites that big.
Yeah, I mean, this is why HotStar, I think, was positioned on that Investors Day, because I hadn't really given that company any thought at all, but it was up there next to Hulu and ESPN. So that was definitely a cool thing. as well as, there's been things about in Africa. There was no mention of Africa at all in the Investor Day event. It was all Asia. Australia obviously keeps popping up. Obviously people over there wanting to know. Australia wasn't mentioned, but it's a lot of people wondering if that just comes under the Asia side. Africa as well quite often comes under the Europe, Middle East, and Africa all get plunked into one group according to Disney. But again, it's all good. It's going to take a long time. We're going to have to wait a while for all of this information to creep through. It's that thing of they gave us so much information during that Investor Day, but there's so many it's led to so many other questions. Instead of the question being what's it going to cost, now it's what's this, when's this. So there's been lots of little questions coming in, and I suspect we'll see that for probably years ahead, because I think there'll always be the thing of, is Buzz Lightyear's Space Command coming to Disney Plus? And until it's on there, that question's never going to get answered.
I just want them to release the Mandalorian trailer.
Yeah.
That's my question. That's when are we going to see that? Because I know they showed it, and there was a bootleg video that was posted on YouTube. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, we're going to leave that one for there. Speaking of Hulu, AT&T, aka Time Warner, Warner Brothers, they have sold their 10% stake of Hulu back to Hulu. I think that was kind of a way of getting around it. So what that means is Hulu now owns an extra 10%. Of course, that meant Disney owned 60%, Comcast owned 30%. Now that then puts it up to Disney are like 66.3 or 66.6%, and Comcast are at 33%. So Hulu's now down to 2 owners now. So that makes, and I suspect it's just a waiting game until Comcast sell their end of it. And yeah, so we're seeing lots of movement. And I think once that's sorted, I think we'll sort of start seeing a bit of an idea of what's going on between like the ABC and the Fox shows. I think once Disney have got full control, we'll see a better idea of what's going on with Disney Plus and the interconnection between them, because I think there will be quite a little bit of that. Other little bits that came out of the Investors Day that I just wanted to briefly bring up was the Netflix stuff. There's been a lot of talk, obviously, Netflix versus Disney Plus. It's become, as what some people have been calling, where it was Amazon Prime versus Netflix. Now the new headline is Netflix versus Disney Plus. Disney obviously is competition, but Netflix is also looking at it and going, well, actually, a lot of competition is good because it means more people will cut the cord and then sign up to Netflix and other services. They had to put their little spin on it. They don't think it's going to cause too much issue, but I cannot understand, if you've got your business and another 4 big players are pulling their content off of your platform, open their own one. Yeah, there's a reason why the Netflix stock was down, because generally at the minute, Netflix is feeling the pressure from everybody else. Stock-wise, even if their CEOs, they're going, no, everything's fine. It's like, I wouldn't expect anything different from a CEO from any company at that point.
No, I mean, you have to spin everything positive at these meetings, no matter what. We've talked about it on the Diz Kingdom podcast when I was on that. In a few cases, like there was that situation where Disney had to talk about EA, the video game company, and they're like, yeah, we're very happy with how EA is handling things, and the fan community is going, really? And no, the answer is probably no, not really. But they can't say that. And this is the same thing with this is the same thing with Netflix, because even if they're in their boardroom going, oh man, people aren't going to cut the cord and do Netflix and something, what they're probably going to do is just pirate stuff, because they don't want to worry about where everything is. They might be saying that in the boardroom and in the developers and whatnot, but you can't say that in a board meeting. Your stock is just going to go straight down.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the video game bit, because during the Investors Day event, at the Q&A section at the back, even Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, turned around and was like, because I can't mention games because there was a question about Disney Life and the bits and pieces, and he goes, every time I talk about games, I get into trouble. And it was quite, and they had a bit of a laugh and stuff about it, almost that thing of, he knew where all those, everything got picked up on that last Investors call. He obviously knows that, that is an issue that came up because of that. But I did find that was a little bit interesting. Jumping now to some of the other bits and pieces. Love, Simon, a 20th Century Fox film, is apparently being converted into a television series for Disney Plus. The creator, one of the executive producers and the writer of the book have confirmed it on Twitter. so we know that that's happening. It's not going to be it's kind of a remake of the movie, but it's not really a full remake because they're not really even doing a copy of the sequel books. It's being developed solely as a series for Disney Plus. So it's a complete remake or reboot rather than a sequel or a remake. It definitely sounds interesting that they're doing this. And the big question here also as well was this series is probably very important because Disney need to get up content that's got that kind of content from like the LGBT community. They need that. They need some extra storylines and extra things and also just in general, I can't help but feel Disney need to put more stories out like this. And I think Love, Simon could be a really interesting one. I'm looking forward to seeing the movie. Hopefully when that one comes out on one of the streaming services to watch, because it was something, again, so many movies at the cinema to go see, but I really think that's a good forerunner for a solid show to come to Disney Plus in the future.
Yeah, and my only negative thought about it is that the movie is still very brand new. It only came out last year, and I would prefer if they're going to remake shows or remake movies as shows, kind of dig a little bit deeper to something that's a little less recent. But at the same time, it did pretty well in the box office. It is a known brand at this point, and if you are trying to reach out to the LGBTQ community, sorry, tongue-tied on the letters, it's something that you can very easily point and say, we've got this right here for you.
Yeah.
And more importantly, with Disney Plus being kind of targeted at a bit of a younger audience, I think they're hoping that they'll catch kids in this age range, that the characters of the movie or the show are, and that's very important for kids trying to figure out what their place is in life. And even today, there's still a lot of kind of mixed message about that lifestyle. And so having something which will hopefully be positive for them to kind of find an anchor within this sea will be useful. And Disney knows that. They also know they're going to lose some people because, homosexuality is the most evil thing of all evils on the planet, and it's the cause of every terrible whatever. But they're banking on more people being like, we want open, accepting, rational messages over the evil of evil, all things evil, whatever.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation because unfortunately, it's that thing of if you don't have a problem with it, you don't see a problem, and it's just a simple thing, and it's the way it should be. Annie Mac has had some great feedback because of that. I think this is great news, and also just as well, it's just an interesting show. It'd be interesting to see where they go with it. Obviously, it's just a way. Disney have to. You have to have this stuff there because it's it's life, and it's I can't really put it any issue any more than that. Really, it's just the way it is now. There's no problem with it. So why, there's no reason they shouldn't have it. And I think that's definitely a key thing going forward, that Disney Plus is going to have that. And like you say, some people aren't going to like it, but that's just going to be that's just a minority. And that's ultimately where they need to go. But moving on from there to a very, very different direction was back to Marvel is a rumor of a She-Hulk like team up series, very much in the rumor territory, very much there. This is the weird thing of, again, existing contracts can be a pain in the butt for Disney because Universal have the rights to any solo movie to be created to distribute, and that includes other characters within the Hulk comic books, such as She-Hulk, I think the leader, and a few other characters as well that come under that one. So that's why we've seen things like Thor Ragnarok and Hulk in the Avengers and stuff, because he can't be in a solo movie by himself without bringing in the Universal. And Universal don't want to sell that contract. But a TV series probably doesn't actually come under any of those contracts, so this gets them around the thing. And maybe introducing the She-Hulk this way is a good way of doing it.
Well, yeah, and it's not even just that. They used to have a Hulk show on Disney XD or one of the Disney channels, which was Hulk and the Agents of Smash. which was not just She-Hulk. I think they had Rick Jones and Scar and a couple other characters in there as well. So this is not completely out of the realm of possibility. Obviously, they did that show while this Universal contract was still hanging over their heads. So they've got something going on there. Like you said, though, it is a straight-up rumor. We have no hard evidence for it. That said, I do think it is vaguely credible. Because this is another one of those situations where if it's, say, in continuity with the MCU, it could be that transition from the Hulk character to the She-Hulk character where they can line up a new actress. They don't have to worry about continuing to keep Mark Ruffalo signed on as the Hulk with new contracts and stuff like that. We're seeing this with, Winter Soldier and Captain America and Spider-Man replacing Iron Man kind of stuff. So I could definitely see them going in this direction.
And also, as well, is in some ways it can be done a little bit cheaper because obviously the Hulk, when he's in Bruce Banner mode, it's only Mark Ruffalo, and therefore that's quite an easy way of bringing him in. And if they want to bring the Hulk in, they can do it without really Mark Ruffalo doing a huge amount of extra work for it. But no, it's definitely much a rumor. It definitely caught people's attention, and I definitely think that's a good thing. Could be an interesting one. There's so many rumors going around of different Marvel characters. I think because we have had, we've had Hawkeye rumored, we've had tons of different ones. I think if we are going to see this one could be year 3, year 4. This one's a long way down the back because they've already got like 3 Marvel series under development that we know of that have been officially confirmed. But definitely interesting kind of thing. So I'm just looking here at some of the other news as well. And yeah, I think that's pretty much going to go over now to the Star Wars portion of the TV series. Actually, no, I did just notice one other story was Disney Plus including TV 14 shows. This one was one that I kind of noticed when I was going through all the stuff on the National Geographic side of things and doing a quick check on those TV shows. There's about 7 or 8 series that are actually rated as TV 14. Which I thought was interesting because there's been this big question of family content only on Disney Plus, and where does the line draw? Is it PG-13? Is it PG-14? We know we're not going to see TVM or R-rated movies, but I did like the fact that I'm already, we're seeing things like Wicked Tuna. There was a movie called Jane, One Strange Rock, The Incredible Dr. Poe, Howie Mandel's Animals Doing Things, and Dr. Oakley's Yukon Vet are ones just to name a few. Now, whether or not it just applies to National Geographic shows, but it does open the door a lot more to content from ABC and Fox by doing it, such as the Family Guy series and other things like that.
Yeah, and to be honest, I always kind of figured TV 14 or whatever the the regional equivalent is would be in there. I thought the line would be at I actually don't know what the TV equivalent is to R, but R 17 and older have to be 17 or older to watch it, kind of thing.
It's TVM, I think it is. Mature.
Yeah, that sounds right. TVM. I should probably learn these things if I'm gonna. But yeah, I always figured the line would be TV 14 is fine. Disney has never really shied away from TV 14, and especially a lot of their properties, particularly the Marvel Universe properties, kind of lean on that edge anyway. Yeah. And if they wanted to have that kind of property on Disney Plus, then you need to be willing to go into that. And The Mandalorian would also be another example. A Mandalorian series that isn't able to handle at least slightly mature topics, in which case I'm talking primarily about violence in this case, probably would not be as impactful as if they went for, a general audience rating or something along those lines. So not a surprise per se, but nice to have it mostly confirmed.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing of going through. What I was doing was just putting every series into like Amazon's like Prime Video just to see what they were coming up with, and it was like, okay, there's multiple ones coming up here, and to me, it's like you said, it's nice just to have that confirmation that there are some already on there, which therefore they've already set that line, and I think that's important because I do think the TV 14 side really opens them up for future development. And it also allows them lots of other shows, lots of it's like things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Cloak and Dagger, Runaways. Just from the Marvel side, you've got all those ABC shows that they could bring over, but also the animation like Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, American Dad, all these kind of things. Well, Simpsons is kind of I think is a G anyway. Some of them are TV 14, but most of them are G. So they're already on there. We know they're all coming. So I think it just opens them up. And it depends really on where they're going to go with this Hulu Disney Plus split. But I do like the fact that they're going to have this. You've got things like on Freeform, lots of TV stuff there that I personally feel like Freeform is a much more suited to like Disney Plus than maybe like Hulu, because that's a teenage audience that they're aiming for. And Family Guy have started airing on there with a little disclaimer at the beginning saying it's TV 14. But yeah, and they were going to have child mechanisms within the app for parents that they can use to block out certain content. So you're going to be able to go in there and pick a tick if they can't watch those shows anyway. I mean, TV 14 is not grossly, there might be the odd swear word, the odd thing, but there's nothing vastly to like you might see in a TVM or a R-rated movie or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what Hulu's for. It's for the mature stuff.
Yeah, it's that kind of line. I think there's a number of shows I feel like slide on that line of their things like Cloak and Dagger. To me, feel a much more better suit for Disney Plus to fit under the Marvel banner as a prime thing, and things like that. Maybe things like Grey's Anatomy is better suited on Hulu, but we're just gonna have to wait and find out what goes on with all of this a little bit later down the line. So now let's jump into the Star Wars side, because we had tons of Star Wars news announced at Star Wars Celebration. I say tons. It was a bit of I didn't come out of that event at all surprised with anything that got announced. Everything seemed a little bit light. We did have the Star Wars Episode 9 trailer, so we'll go into that first off. What was your initial thoughts of it?
Mostly neutral, honestly. There were some bits and pieces that were interesting. There was, of course, the thing at the very end, which got the internet buzzing. But I have to admit the opening of it with Rey in the desert and then running, and then the TIE silencer following her and her doing the backflip was like, I don't know what's going on here. I hope that this is a dream sequence, because this, without any context, of course, looks really stupid. But then it got better after that, and I was, fairly interested. It did what a teaser needs to do. Yeah. It didn't give any information. It kind of teased at a couple of things, and we'll have to wait for a proper trailer to get proper, or I will have to wait for proper trailer anyway to get full feedback. But right now, it actually didn't break through my apathy. So we'll see. I need to see more.
Yeah, it definitely was. I think for me, kind of watched it, was like, okay. And I watched it again. I'm like, okay, this, again, very good. It doesn't show you anything, doesn't tease anything, doesn't give you any idea what's going on. And at the same time, I actually think it's like with Star Wars, they don't need a lot of trailers at this point. It's Episode 9. It's the 9th movie in a series. If you've seen the other 8, you're going to want to watch this one. I feel like it's a little bit like Endgame. We just need less. Less is more. I have one good trailer that doesn't show us a lot. And this one here it was just a bit odd. There's this kind of big weird thing with Star Wars right now of trying to please everyone. Just doesn't seem to be working. You got loads of people that are anti it. Lots of people are for it. Disney have stated that they are going to be slowing down the movie releases, and with that, at the same time, we hear of new series being developed and stuff. So it's very much, I think they're aware that they tried doing the Marvel route with Star Wars for 2 movies a year, and they've admitted that failed, because that was what they were. I think they were looking at Marvel going, can we do this with Star Wars? And the answer was no, it didn't work.
Yeah. It's not that it couldn't have worked. It's that I think that they didn't really know how to do it. And they tried to copy the Marvel way too much. They were doing it the Marvel way simply because that was the way that they were used to doing it, rather than adapting it to how it would work with Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it meant that they were making movies, specifically the movies like Rogue One and Solo, where they didn't necessarily have a reason to make them, except we want to have a movie in this time slot.
Yeah. I still believe that had Solo and Last Jedi swapped places in terms of release date, Solo probably would have done twice as much as it did. It was the backlash to Last Jedi which tanked Solo. I still think Last Jedi is what the problem has been since that movie, of people not, a certain massive audience of it, not liking parts of that movie, which led to Solo having this problem. We need, because Solo was a fine movie, and I still think, had that movie come out 6 months later, or they had swapped it around, Solo would have been seen so much different. I think it was Last Jedi which alienated so many people that was a problem with Solo. And I still think until Episode 9 kind of fixes the problems with Last Jedi, which we'll never be able to go back and fix it, but if Last Jedi turns out to be excellent, it will rejuvenize the series again.
Right. And I think going back to the talk about 8 and Solo, not just like reversing them, I think, and as I've mentioned several times previously, if they had just stuck with Star Wars as a December launch, one movie per year, both of those movies would have done better. Solo in particular, because it would have been farther away. And now we wouldn't have been waiting a year and a half for Episode 9 by the time it comes out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I get why they wanted to do it in May. I mean, that's when Star Wars came out back in 77. So they wanted it to kind of stay there. But once Force Awakens got pushed back to December and Rogue One got pushed back to December, they should have just stuck with that release schedule. It's now a Christmas movie. Or a family holiday movie. And you can count on it. Sometime in the middle of December, there's a Star Wars movie. And Solo, not just because of the controversy around Last Jedi, love it, hate it, somewhere in the middle, whatever. It came out so close after Last Jedi that it didn't have a chance to build up any hype. Now, if we were talking Marvel movies, this happens all the time. Last year alone, like all three of the Marvel movies, or all the Marvel movies came out in like a 4-month span, and it didn't affect them at all, as near as we can tell. But Star Wars was different. And I think Disney or Lucasfilms or both are finally starting to grasp, no, we can't do the Marvel method with Star Wars. Star Wars is a different property. There is an overlap in the fandoms, but there are different expectations even within that overlap.
So let's talk some Disney Plus stuff. So first off, we had The Mandalorian. So there was a panel which was streamed live. So I sat there and watched it live with John Farnhoo. You had Pedro Pascal. You had Carl Weathers, and also Gina Carano. I think that's how you put it. I've been struggling with that pronunciation. So they were on stage. They also had Dave Filoni. He was there talking about it. And, well, first off, sat there watching it. All right, we're going to show you this reel. But those of you at home can't watch it. I was like, oh, great. So therefore, didn't get it. Comes back. John Farnhoo then goes, oh, by the way, you shouldn't have had cameras out. At which point, it's been streamed across the internet. So I did watch the sizzle reel. Most of it was just backstage, like shots of them kind of climbing into stuff and smiling at the camera, and a few, you're talking seconds of the actual TV series. It was very much a behind the scenes one. And then it kind of ended there, and you could tell that they were sitting there doing the interview. And they've been in other interviews afterwards. They were on the Star Wars Star Wars show. They were on GM America yesterday morning talking. And you can tell that they are sitting there like, what are we supposed to say? I don't know what we're not supposed to say anything. I've got this one piece of card that I can read, and that's all this. It just felt like you've got an hour of this, and it was like, other than John Farnhoo and kind of letting stuff out, the rest of them kind of like, we know their names, we know the ship. We don't. It felt a little bit like this was way too long for very little actual to tell you what was going on.
I did not watch it live. I actually didn't know when it was, so I just missed it. I did watch the sizzle reel after the fact on one of the bootleg videos. I did not watch the trailer. I guess there was a separate trailer.
No, that was it. That was the
sizzle reel. That was just the sizzle reel?
Yeah.
Okay, then I did watch it, which was interesting. Sizzle reels are generally behind the scenes stuff, so that was expected. And then I read some news summaries on everything else in the panel, and was like, I'm glad I didn't watch this, because the sizzle reel was all I cared about. There was almost no news. But, it's different when you're there also, with the actors there, with the directors there, the, Q&A and that kind of thing. But there wasn't much of substance out of this panel. So I am not disappointed
Yeah.
that I missed it, but at the same time, that does not diminish in any way my interest or excitement in The Mandalorian. I am eagerly awaiting a proper trailer for The Mandalorian, as I said earlier in this podcast, and I think I'm I'm anticipating The Mandalorian more than I am Episode 9 at the moment,
Yeah.
and that's without seeing anything except a very blurry sizzle reel.
Yeah, I think it's just the concept of a Star Wars TV show would kind of give us a little bit more scope to stretch out those characters, because you're going to think 8 episodes, that's equivalent to 3 movies. So we're getting pretty much an entire trilogy, 1 episode a week, because they have said that it is going to be 1 episode a week. And yeah, it just, to me, it felt a little bit like you needed to have just got this trailer out there, and especially as well with all the bootleg live streams and stuff going on there, which it's just like you should have just got it out there, put it out there officially, put it out there with the 4K version so we can all watch it. I know they didn't want to take it away from Episode 9, and that seems to be the big issue. But it just feels like they're holding back for this trailer for another, it literally could drop today, it could drop next week, it could just drop on a random Tuesday. They might be holding it back for May 4th. That might be the next stage where they will drop the trailer for it. And that could be it. But it just felt like, don't show it and then not show it. I mean, we saw that with the Investors Day where they showed a load of content off, but they didn't show it to us live. And it's like, it's a very weird way that Disney seemed to be doing this, of like showing stuff off at these panels and stuff, but we're not wanting to get it out you either want to get it out in public or you don't. And it's like that weird thing of odd. And then it ended up, the bootleg versions went out. And then kicking over to the Star Wars panel, the Clone Wars panel, which is a new series coming to Disney Plus as well late, and I think it's next year. They haven't announced the date. They showed off a new trailer, which looks great. They still haven't released that one individually, so it's still there with all the and they showed off loads of clips. Some of them looked a little bit ropey. I don't know if you saw that panel as well.
I didn't watch the panel, but that was because I couldn't watch that panel. Unfortunately, the timing was bad for me. I did watch the trailer, and I did enjoy the trailer. I do love Ahsoka, so it was a good trailer for me because it was almost entirely her. We did get to see her dueling against Darth Maul briefly at the end of it, which was referenced in her book a couple of years ago. So, yeah, I'm definitely interested. I would like a release date. But, yeah, I love the Clone Wars, and it's one of those series that got better and better with every season, kind of started off slow and then eventually got up there by the end. And I'm just looking forward to getting an ending to it.
Yeah. So. See, I'm currently about 2 episodes away from the end of season 2. I've been creeping my way each night through a couple episodes of it. So I'm hoping by the time Disney Plus launches, I'll have actually got all of them, because they're all on Disney Life over here. So I've been going through, and you can feel it getting better as each one's going along. But that panel was a lot more relaxed. You could tell the fact that because they'd had like all the previous seasons, they had a lot more little anecdotes, and they were talking a little bit more openly about doing the project, and they showed off lots of clips. Generally felt a little bit looser. It was a little bit more of a interesting. It didn't feel like they were quite holding back the same way. Like they didn't have the same pressure on them. Because I mean, Dave Filoni's talked quite often about the fact of letting stuff out that he shouldn't. And it just felt a little bit looser. And I liked having all the clips, and they were able to show stuff. And some of them look really kind of quite ropey because they're obviously nowhere near finished. But I did like the fact that it was a little bit looser, but I don't think the attention was on it the same, because it didn't really get the same attention like from like the mainstream media and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to kind of to quantify it or whatever. It's even now it's kind of viewed as just like a random offshoot show. And obviously the big news is Episode 9, the ending of that trailer, The Mandalorian, Disney Plus, and on and on. And Clone Wars is just kind of seen as like a side project. So
yeah, it's funny because I was at my gaming club the other night, and I was talking to someone, and he was like going, "Oh yeah, it's a kid show," and I was like, "No." And there was a few of us going, "No, it's actually really good." He goes, "Yeah, but it's he goes, well, I don't want another streaming service, and I don't want to." And there was that kind of thing of like, and it's a quite interesting sort of sitting there talking to someone that doesn't play Star Wars games, and so we're talking to someone that is aware of Star Wars, but talking to them about streaming services and Clone Wars and stuff, and you get in that thing of not being in the thing of just going, well, I don't want, well, I might watch it, but it's a cartoon for kids. And it was like, yeah, it's quite interesting seeing it from that point, of course, when you're used to seeing stuff like that in, talking to somebody outside of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was driving at, is a lot of people, especially in America, I think, as you get to Europe and then farther and farther east, cartoons get less and less stigma as being a kid's thing. But even today in America, even though we've had The Simpsons and Family Guy and BoJack Horseman and all these very mature,
South
Park. Even though we've had all of these increasingly mature shows, or immature shows, depending on your point of view, cartoons are still viewed as a kid's medium. So Star Wars Clone Wars, despite the fact that, especially in later seasons, it does tackle some very difficult issues at times, it's a kid's show. And a lot of people will look at it and say it's a kid's show. It's Star Wars, but it's a kid's show. I don't need to watch this. So
no, it's gonna be interesting. There was lots of other bits and pieces out of Star Wars Celebration. Quite a few bits of like around Galaxy's Edge and new merchandise and new video game Jedi Fallen Order. Lots of other things, but a lot of it just it's like thing of, if you're there, it's one thing, but sitting back here now looking at everything again, you kind of revealed everything, but everything was a tease. Everything just felt like all we saw was teasers. There was nothing really of any substance come out like to keep going. There was some talk on one of the interviews that they are currently looking into exploring the Knights of the Old Republic or the Old Republic stories, whether it be a movie series or, as they're now looking at it, that having television series, they're looking at that as being a really good way of medium of telling these kind of stories. So, but a lot of stuff really about like an Old Republic TV series potentially coming down the line. Because I think because Catherine Kennedy was quite open about the fact that they're really liking the idea that Disney Plus opens them up to being able to produce short form, limited series, big budgets, and I think it's just opening their eyes that they can actually do something a little bit more. They're not looking at television. You go back 15, 20 years ago and it was TVs and movies. Nothing corresponded. If you were an actor and you went from a movie to a television show, that means your career was over and you were a failure. Now it doesn't work like that. You see the people floating between the two so regularly. And everyone that was on television wanted to get into the movies and never wanted to go back.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a huge, huge shift in that in recent years. And actually, a lot of that has been Netflix. Netflix has gotten a lot of big actors, but of course, it was other shows. I don't remember the name of it, but I think there was a cop drama with Kevin Bacon in it several years ago, and that was viewed as like, what is he doing in a television show? This is crazy. And then since then, it's become more and more common, especially with shows like Fargo picking up Ewan McGregor and I can't remember her name now, but
you had like Nicole Kidman was in, and Reese Witherspoon have been in a series together.
Those were in the HBO,
Yeah, I think generally as a whole, also the money being offered to them is now comparable to movies, so it's not quite like, okay, you're offering us real money. I think to me it all started like around the time of 24. That kind of was when it really kicked in.
Oh, right, of course. Kiefer Sutherland in 24, that was a big one. And it's not even just that the money's comparable, it's that it's a more consistent stream of money, because if you're on a TV show and it goes on for a number of seasons, that's money that you can count on for at least a couple of years. Whereas unless you are one of the super high name actors or actresses, all it takes is one bad movie to ruin your career, and now you don't have a source of income, or your source of income is relegated to like D-list movies where they're like really bad zombie invasions or Sharknado or something like that. But so there's security in being in the TV show, and I think a lot of actors are more than willing to make that jump for the security.
And also I think as well it sets them up on a maybe they can stay in one location, they don't have to keep moving everything around in short bursts. So definitely interesting to see where they're going on with all these different TV series. They're definitely looking into expanding into all the different things. Like I said, lots of movies coming up. This last weekend saw the release of Penguins in the US, the Disney Nature show. And it's a bit of an odd one because Disney Nature generally is. It never really breaks through as a mainstream show, and I couldn't help but notice they did not mention it at all during the investors event. They didn't show it off. They didn't. And my initial feeling is, did they not want to? If they felt like if they put the logo up on the screen, and it might encourage people just to wait. And that was my feeling of because I put this up in the Facebook group, and a lot of people go, "Oh yeah, I'm just waiting for it because it's a Disney. It's like there's no point going cinema to see it," and it definitely feels like they didn't almost want to put that out there that it'll be out in 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they want to make the money now, and if people are just going, "Oh, I'll wait until it's on Disney Plus or Netflix," then yeah, you're not going to go to the theater. And you know, another big part of it is documentaries don't do well in theaters in general. It's much harder to pitch them. It's much harder to sell them. With the exception, at least here in the States, going to a science museum and watching, you know, the 30-minute documentaries in the IMAX theaters, those do generally pretty well, but they're not. That's not a traditional release. You know, they don't end up on the charts. They're not the #1 movie of the year or even the week, but they do have a consistent, you know, stream of customers. Normally, you know, to a couple showings per day per theater. But of course, Disney and all the other companies, they want the documentary in an actual theater on a run and so on. But I think ultimately what it boils down to is what you were saying is they don't want to say, "Oh yeah, it'll be on Disney Plus," because the few people who might actually go to the theater to see it would be, "Oh, well, okay, if it's going to be on Disney Plus, then I'll just wait until Disney Plus."
Yeah, because of the way it looks at the minute is Captain Marvel and Dumbo are going to be available on launch November the 12th. So usually, as we say, 6 to 8 month window from release, they come out onto streaming services. That's been the traditional system. 6 months for Captain Marvel and Dumbo puts them like October. So that's why they've had to be pushed back. So I'm wondering if Penguins is like, they can use that as like the week 2, week 3, like, oh, and here we've got Penguins. This is your new movie. And then the following week, here's Endgame. You know, they're going to want to, they didn't maybe want to push that as a launch title. Whereas Dumbo and Captain Marvel have already done, because even during the Investors Day, Endgame was shown, but I think they already know that they've already sold the tickets for that event. So I know at the Star Wars Club the other night, we were all like, everyone's got their tickets, everyone's going, you know, and it was, they didn't need to worry so much about Endgame being hit, but Disney Penguins definitely look like that. That's the kind of movie that instantly just said it. I mean, I'm going to wait for Disney Plus for Dumbo. I might rent it if it's available, but yeah, Penguins felt like a lot of people might have just wanted to hold out on that one.
I would include myself among them too. Yeah. It got very good ratings. It's sitting very high on the Rotten Tomatoes score. It looks cute, but especially with current theater pricings, I can't see myself going to the theater to see it. But I will happily watch it on Disney Plus. And actually, I do have to make a correction for myself. I got an email from my local science museum stating they are going to do a limited run of Penguins from like April 18th to the 28th or something like that, somewhere in that range. And I may go over and do that, but it would be in their theater, and it would be as a trip to the museum and kind of like a thing attached onto it. But I'm not going to commit to it. But I will say there is a chance that I might see this in an IMAX theater rather than a traditional theater.
Because I was just looking there at because like Penguins didn't even get released here in the UK, not even on the radar. Disney Nature movies generally don't get released over here. The British audience just does not respond to Disney Nature very well. I think the style of it, we're much more used to things like Open Planet that's on Netflix at the minute with Richard David Attenborough, kind of the more serious things, and we watched them at home. And yeah, Penguins hasn't even been released out here, so it's definitely a case of waiting. I'm still, I think, like Born in China, I've still been waiting for that one to sort of slip through. We know that's confirmed for Disney Plus. It's still not even on Disney Life yet. There's a few on there, like the Penguins, the Flamingo one and the Wildcats. I've only ever watched Chimpanzee. It's goodness, it's just one of those series that they've never really promoted it outside of America, and it's just it's an odd one, really.
Yeah, and even in America, they don't really promote it, so
No.
not heavily.
No,
Anyway.
and I think, and I do. I mean, they put out a trailer saying they've got more movies to come because last year there's supposed to be a movie called Dolphins that they canned. They just stopped, and they showed off this trailer of like the next 10 years, and they showing future projects kind of thing. It couldn't quite work it, and can't help but think. I still think they hailed Penguins back or Dolphins back, thinking that we don't want it under the Netflix deal. We'll get it out there. It's not going to bring us a lot in at the box office. We'll hold it back for a future release. And it just got dropped. You know, they had the trailer out, it was all coming, and then they just pulled it at the last minute. But I do wonder with National Geographic whether this division is a slight edge of what it's going to do. It might just go down into almost Disney Plus exclusive movies, might be the better suit for them. Budget cut, but I think it would actually pull in people more on that than if they pushed it correctly.
I don't really have anything to add on to that. I agree. It's pulled back, and it's something they can add on and point at and say, hey, look, we've got this, or they just go, there was no reason for us to do this. National Geographic already has some amazing videos. Yeah,
so there we go. So that kind of runs through all the news. It was, like I say, with Star Wars Celebration, just lots of little snippets coming out of that Investor Day. I think we've kind of definitely got the most information. So hopefully we'll start getting a little bit more idea of bits and pieces coming out over the coming months, and we'll get new trailers and stuff. But again, thank you very much for joining us. Make sure you do subscribe on the audio platforms if you do listen there, and also on YouTube. We've had some great response to our videos in the past few weeks, especially on YouTube, and great to see everyone joining us there. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter so you can kind of keep up with our latest articles. And like I said, we have a Facebook group as well, so you can join in the discussion there. James, where can they find you?
heroiclegacy.com.
And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back next week with another episode, and we shall see you guys soon. Later.